Well, obviously there's major changes. I mean, everybody talks about how much the world's changed, but no one seems to modify their behaviour, which always strikes me as slightly strange. I think the job for designers has changed quite well, or intensified. There's much more information out there. Everybody still wants to be seen. Everybody still wants to be heard. And the big thing is being able to construct a message and be visually strong enough to actually, first of all, be consciously taken in, and then how interesting is the message that will keep you there. So, in a sense, you know, the order of information is absolutely critical these days. I mean, we all know we're all very good at being able to conduct one conversation and listen to 10 others and watch out of the corner of our eye and pretend we're really focused on the issues. So for businesses, their ability to communicate clearly relies on the impact that they can make and then their ability to maintain something that's relevant to the audience. So for the designer, I guess that's always been about communication, except there's more information to deal with. It's as simple as that. How's it changed our businesses? I think design was always a support business to other businesses. It was always a support to advertising or public relations or something. In the last 40, maybe 50 years, we've seen design emerge as a much greater business tool. What always amazes me is the businesses that embrace it are also seen by other businesses being real leaders and what a wonderful job they do, but everybody's terrified to jump in the pond as well. But we are seeing a lot more of that. We're seeing designers participate at board level. We're seeing designers as advisors, not just doers or people who interpret others' ideas, but rather there's a real voice for design today, I think. If we look at, I read a statistic that something like 70% of the world's leading businesses use the word innovation, design or creativity in their mission statements, which I find a staggering percentage given the behaviour of most of those companies. Usually what drives design is a reality that they need it, and that often takes a long time, and the marketplace may be the driver of that. The competitors may be the driver of that, or maybe you really do come across an insightful CEO who says, I understand that design can drive my business. The businesses that have been grown through design have usually come from people with inventive minds to start with, and their need for someone to say, you must go see a designer is totally irrelevant. What I've always loved, I guess over the 38 years, are the converts, those people where they really don't want design, they just need some information so they can get on with their business, who when they discover what design is all about and how it works and the impact it can have on their business, they really tend to be those, born-again Christians. They'll go out there and they'll thump the table about why design works and how it works. I don't think it matters how small a business or an organisation is, the communication is international. Because the internet ensures that that's going to happen. Anybody can access anybody these days. So while we might be thinking about a very smaller and more defined market, the reality is anybody can access that, and you would hope that if they do access through the internet or some other mechanism, that you'll be understood. That's the role of the designer. I mean, our role is often to tell stories that have already been told a million times over, just got to tell them in a new way. So it does at least appear to be different. But crossing the cultural barriers has been, I guess, always on my mind, I guess since probably 1973 for me, was the time when I started to think about this. We talk about our ways we communicate now. I know the people in my organisation, some of the younger ones laughed when I said, that the telex machine was pretty exciting, where we could actually type a message that would end up somewhere else. And then came the facsimile, and I was offered a job in, I think it was 1975, in the United States. and I turned it down 3 times. But they nearly convinced me when they told me they could send drawings on the telephone. And now this was a precursor to fax, and for someone working in Australia who loved to interact with other countries, we used to do it all by mail. I mean, and we smile about that today, but the reality is, I was working on a project, I was working on some film titles for a company in the UK. And I think I was in 4 cities in different countries during the course of that project, and it was about a 2.5-week project. But I was rarely in the studio. But I was working on the project the whole time, and we would share everything from flat drawings to animated pieces to music, and literally just work wherever you were.
Mm-hmm.
So
that sounds like it was a quite exciting time in terms of the sort of...
Every day is exciting. I mean, that's why I still come to work. The biggest change that I think that technology's brought is the speed that you can work at. I mean, the hardest thing in design is still the decision-making process. It's not putting more in because you can have more options at the press of a button these days. It's actually being able to leave things out. And I think the whole skill level of design now is just understanding what you can leave out. Probably has always been like that. I think time. I think time's the decider. I'm not sure that there's instant great design. For me, there's only 2 kinds of design. There's good and there's bad. And I think we often, as a profession, get too carried away in trying to grade that into award systems and things like that. I think that's just so overdone. I remember there was a publication in Australia that I thought had absolutely the right idea, where they would run a show, and rather than give awards, there was a standard that the judges would try and assess that would say this work will be either included in the book or not included in the book. There's no golds and silvers, and there's none of that. And having participated in the judging panel twice on that, the thing that I found was there was a generosity of judging that wasn't present when you were giving out gold and silver medals. There was the book would be better, or the statement of Australian design would be better if this was included, where people were trying to bring other thought patterns in there rather than going, oh, that doesn't really fit the mould, we're not going to give that an award. And I felt the result of the show and the work always ended up looking better than the award shows where they were giving out the golds and silvers. I guess firstly, you want a client that's ecstatic, not just happy. You want to feel like you've been able to transport the client or the business to someplace they never dreamed they could go to. You want to see outstanding results for the client as a result of that endeavour, and you want to feel like you've made your client look very good to those communities that he tries or she tries to communicate with.